Hi everyone, and welcome to Jane Talks Real. It's Trek Tuesday, where I'll be talking about and reviewing an episode of the original series, The Next Generation, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, or Enterprise. Today I'm going to be looking at Someone to Watch Over Me, from Voyager's 5th season. Or as I like to call it, that time 7 of 9 tried to assimilate a lobster. This episode was requested by Cartoon Dave, so I hope I do it justice, and thank you for supporting my channel. We begin the episode with Seven hovering over Tom and B'Elanna's dinner date, and B'Elanna notices. Neelix gets them to try some boring cheese he's made for a visiting dignitary from a race called the Cotti, who aren't allowed to have anything nice or do anything fun. Neelix is freaking out because he's in charge of the visit while Janeway is off the ship, and B'Elanna confronts Seven on her peeping. Seven admits that she's been following them around to research human mating, and B'Elanna is pissed about what Seven's been writing.
How the hell do you know when we're having intimate relations?
There is no one on Deck 9, Section 12 who doesn't know when you're having intimate relations.
B'Elanna wants Seven to stop and threatens her.
Borg provokes Klingon. Klingon breaks Borg nose.
So Tom drags her away, and into the credits we go. Janeway is looking swish in her outfit, and gently tells Seven that she really shouldn't be spying on the crew's sexy times, but maybe she should try dating for herself. Tomin, this robed dude, who will be kicking it with Neelix for a few days, beams aboard with the Abbot, who is played by Ian Abercrombie, who I know from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Janeway and Tuvok head off with the Abbot, while Tomin tells Neelix he wants to try a spicy dish he saw in their database. And even though it's against his customs, he's like, YOLO! So Neelix takes him to the mess hall. Seven is getting a checkup in sickbay.
You're a woman, Seven.
Is that an observation or a diagnosis?
And the doctor agrees with Janeway that she should try dating, and he rushes off to put together a lesson plan. He shows her a PowerPoint presentation of different species, and seriously dude, species 8472, that's a party foul. And where did he get this picture? They only heard of species 8472 in the Delta Quadrant, so I doubt they had time to snap a picture. In fact, where did the doc get these pictures from? Did these crewmates pose for it willingly, or did he take a picture while hiding in the bushes? He then starts talking about impregnation, and Seven quickly stops him. He swiftly moves on to a practical exercise. Dude, you haven't taught her anything yet. And they put on a little skit. Seven is not impressed, and the doctor tries to emphasize the importance of small talk.
Perhaps there's something to be said for assimilation, after all.
The doctor points her at some guy and encourages her to wing it, but she's kinda awkward, and Tom pulls up a seat to watch. He says the test is unfair because the doctor programmed the guy to get along with Seven, and finds it funny that he of all people is helping Seven with her dating life. They make a wager, with Tom agreeing to work double shifts if Seven brings and leaves with a date to the function Neelix has hosted for Tomin, but if she doesn't, he gets a month off. Dude, you can't just not show up to your job for a month. Seven is bored now and wants to move on to the next challenge, while Tomin is in the mess hall eating absolutely everything and perving on the women. The doc quizzes Seven on her hobbies and goals, and turns out she's pretty boring, so he suggests she share his interest in music and invites her to sing.
The other night, dear, as I lay sleeping, I dreamed I held you in my arms.
She's really good, and they do a little duet.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine.
And uh-oh, I think the doc might have realised he feels a certain type of way. Harry walks in on Seven, narrowing down the dating pool to 2 candidates, and is disappointed to discover that he isn't one of them, so instead offers to help her pick. Together they settle on Lieutenant Chapman, who Seven jump scares when she goes to ask him out. He's a little shocked, but says yes.
Seven, please state the nature of the medical emergency.
I have a date.
Tom thinks the date is going to be a disaster and tells the doc that he seems into her. He's not wrong. Seven is faffing around the cargo bay right before her date, so the doc takes down her hair and replicates her an outfit. But no thanks, he doesn't want to help. Chapman is pretty skittish on the date, and Seven is, well, Seven. They order the lobster, which Seven isn't impressed with.
This creature has an exoskeleton.
And wait, is this even real food? Seven splatters Chapman with lobster bits, so he suggests they try dancing instead. Which goes well, until Seven manages to break him and he's ordered to sickbay.
I have failed.
Nonsense. Even Romeo and Juliet hit a few snags at first.
Seven is annoyed that her first attempt at dating ended in failure and says how much easier she finds it talking to the doctor. So the doctor suggests they practice dancing, assuring her he can't be damaged, and they dance to an instrumental of Someone to Watch Over Me. Neelix rushes onto the holodeck to find Tomin drunk and flirting with some holodeck babes, and he confesses that he wants to leave his religious life behind and stay on Voyager. The following day, the Doctor invites Seven to Tomin's reception as his date, and she accepts. Tom is telling jokes to a once again drunk Tomin. Here's a thought, Neelix, maybe don't give the man any more synthahol, and Chakotay notices and tells him off. Tom calls foul over Seven and Doc's date, saying the latter isn't a real person, but seriously dude, this isn't season 1, don't be a dick. Seven gives a great toast, and Tomin likey, but then Tom blabs about their bet in front of her and she gets upset.
Clearly I am not the only one who requires social lessons.
She goes to storm out, but drunk off his tits Tomin blocks her path and comes onto her. But out of the way, bitch! He throws a hissy fit, and when Chakotay tries to calm him down, he passes out, so this is going well. With the Abbot back in the morning, they have no choice but to use Seven's nanoprobes to sober him up. And I love how Chakotay's nowhere to be found. He was like, fuck this noise, I'm going to bed. The Doctor apologises to Seven, which she accepts, and then he tries to express his feelings for her, but she friend zones him. Ouch. He asks Tom for advice, but I'm really distracted by how the trim of his uniform is missing several gems. But he is hopeful.
A hologram in a Borg? Stranger things have happened.
Neelix drags Tomin's hungover ass to the transporter room as the Abbot, Janeway and Tuvok come aboard, and they act like absolutely nothing is wrong in the slightest. The Abbot says it's a shame he didn't indulge while he was on Voyager, as it would have been good for him, and peaces out. Seven finds roses left for her by the Doctor, and he pours his heart out to her. But false alarm, it was a holodeck program, and the real Seven walks in, gifting the Doctor with a tricorder she's upgraded, and tells him that she doesn't need lessons anymore because there's no one on board she fancies, which leaves him heartbroken. He activates the Sandrine's program and sits down to play Someone to Watch Over Me. So this was a very sweet standalone episode, and its main plot is similar to that of the musical My Fair Lady. In fact, the theme of musicals runs right through this episode, with a lot of the Doctor's lessons being named for different songs. And the song for which the episode is named is itself from a musical from the mid-1920s called OK. Picardo and Ryan both give great performances with a lot of heart, while still maintaining their characters, who are, for all intents and purposes, not human. There's a lot to enjoy with this episode, and while Neelix and Tom have larger roles, the rest of the cast, although they feature, don't appear in any significant capacity, which allows the two storylines room to breathe. The Neelix plotline was fine, a bit more wacky and comedic to counterbalance the more meaningful story, and while I'm not a Neelix fan, I do enjoy first contact instances where things don't go to plan. I mean, I don't get why Neelix still gave him drinks after he got drunk on the previous night, but I really like the party scene, just to see random members of the crew. They're always fun. The Doctor and Seven of Nine are my favourite characters, and not only do they have natural chemistry, I mean, have you seen these two in real life? They're adorable. But also they feel like the most relatable characters because they both share a need to find their humanity, feel like they belong, and discover who they are. As someone who's still trying to find their niche in life, I can't help but root for them. It's quite unusual for Star Trek to contain any songs with lyrics, which is why people lost their shit over the Enterprise opening theme. But it really works for this episode. Picardo and Ryan have the singing voices to carry it off, and it's really interesting that it's music that connects the two. The episode is well written and acted, strips back the action in favour of character development, and explores a synthetic struggling with romance that doesn't involve Data getting drunk and boinking Tasha Yar. I can see why this episode has a pretty high rating and why it's a favourite of viewer Cartoon Dave. So there you have it. That was Someone to Watch Over Me. If there's an episode of Star Trek you'd like me to cover, pop it down in the comments or come say hi on social media. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, it really does mean a lot, or consider subscribing if you want to be assimilated into my channel. Thank you so much for watching, I'll speak to you soon, and live long and prosper.